Legends and Super Legends. Welcome to Veloharmony. The weather changed completely. I was going to wear the flyweight jersey that I had done a review on, but the weather has cooled off. We got some moisture, rain in the area. Temperatures dipping. It's like 63 Fahrenheit right now, which is probably about 16, 17 C, and it's going to go down to probably about 14, 15 C. So it's a lot cooler than it had been all week. So that called for a change. I've already put my kit in there. I'm putting my pump in the loop that comes with this jersey. Benefit of this loop is when you carry a pump and you have a loop, you don't have to worry about a pump slipping out accidentally if you lean over or whatever. So that's why I like to use the loop when it's there. Go ahead and slide that in. And I'm going to load up my food. I cover my shoes, but since it's mild, I just cover my knees because it's even though it's going to be about 60 Fahrenheit most of the day, the air is still very cool. And since I'm still coming back from a slight cold and cough, I'm making sure I stay nice and warm. And these gloves should be perfect. I don't need liners with them in this temperature. So I'm going to keep my hands warm. It's important that you protect your extremities. I'm taking my banana bread. So if I feel good, I'm going to go long. If not, I'll have to shorten it. It's about 6:41. We leave here in 4 minutes. So I'm going to see if Paul is here so we can roll. I've got the camera over there and I'm ready to go. So this is what I'm wearing. You have to adapt. You have to keep up with the weather because yesterday it was forecasted to be much warmer than it is. There was no rain and it was very muggy and the wind was coming from the Gulf. It has completely changed. So make sure you get your K's in. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled out to hook up with Team RR. The plan was to not do a very long ride. We hooked up with them and headed down Fish Creek, and once we got out there, we're all feeling pretty good, so we kept the pace really high into Keenan, and a lot of people who didn't pace themselves had challenges. You can see Dogshot came back when we got to the store. We went further, we went into the forest and came down, but we didn't take clips there. We took clips from the first part of the ride into Montgomery. I hope you'll find it interesting. On the way back, we basically headed south on 149 through Keenan Cutoff, back to Honia, Egypt, and into the woodlands. So we did a lot less than our normal Saturday ride, and it's okay to do that. You have to taper off. Plus, with the way the week had gone, I needed to give my body a chance to fully recover. So it ended up being a very good ride. I was feeling surprisingly better than I thought I would, so that was always welcome. We just got here and we're rolling out. Team RR today. Yeah, we arrived right on time. Probably about, it says 7:35. As soon as we got there, we took our little nature break and they were rolling out. So it was perfect. We didn't have to sit in the parking lot and chat about the route. So I try to do that on purpose. I get there a little early and then I spin and use up the time, so I'm not standing around the parking lot. It worked out perfectly for us. It ended up feeling cooler than the temperature indicates. It may say 12 C, but it's probably 8 or 9 C is what it feels like. There's moisture in the air and the wind is coming from the north. We don't have the south wind that we had all week, which warmed up the area. So I handed Paul the camera after getting everything situated, rolling out. And I'm pointing Mike. I told Paul, I said on Sunday, I call him Mr. I want to get run over. There's Michael right here, ran in front of that car after the group had already stopped. It was just such a dumb move, it just shocked me. You know? And that's what I was telling Paul, I said that kind of stuff makes all of us look bad. And it's not necessary. you're riding with people and they stop waiting on at an intersection. You come and zoom by, then almost cause an accident, and then you slow down to wait for the group. It was so stupid. I was like, really? So it just, I was telling Paul about it. We laughed about it. I ended up making a comment about it to him later in the ride, because we at some point we're keeping the pace high, and a car is turning right in front of us, and we're turning left. The car is turning in the same direction from the opposite direction, turning right. We wait for the car because the car has the right of way. And so I made a comment. I said, well, I'm glad Michael's not, because Doug on the left, Doug shot. By the way, look at his outfit. Socks match the jersey. Pops. Looks good. That's how you pick out colors. So it looks really good. But anyway, Doug waits for the car because he's leading the group. And so I say, yeah, I'm glad Michael's not up there, because he would have run in front of that car. And we laughed about it. But he heard me. He was right there. I wanted him to hear it, because that's the kind of stuff you don't do. You're in front, you're leading other people, you got to set the example and make good decisions. Even if you're riding solo. If you're in a hurry while you're riding a bike, that just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, that's the best way to put it. We're not in a hurry. We're riding our bikes to enjoy it. So what's the point of taking chances? Just not logical, nor is it sensible. So no, you got an earful from me. You needed to hear it. We come out the ride, we don't want to have fatalities or injuries. There's a guy back there, you'll see I put an arrow on him. He's riding independently, he's on the road, and he rides up to us as we're warming up. And he knows my name, and I don't know the guy. And he calls me by name, so I don't know if he's familiar. I asked Paul, somebody, but Paul said, I think he's with Moore Group. I said, no, he's not with Moore Group. He was doing his own thing. We ended up seeing him 3 hours later on the way back. So whatever route he went, he somehow happened to cross us again. There he is. He knew me by name, called me by name, and it threw me off, because usually I remember people, and I just did not remember the guy. So I told Paul, I don't know him. I'm not sure how he knows my name. Maybe he just knows of me. So maybe he's found the channel, or he's watched some of the videos and stuff like that. So he rolls up. Mark knows him. They chatted a little bit, and he rolls through the group, and in a little while he rolls up to the left, and then Mark sits on his wheel. We're just kind of rolling here. We're sitting at the back. My plan, like I mentioned, was to just see how my body would feel, but with all the rest I had put in this week, my legs felt strong, I felt good, so it was a nice surprise. Because with a head cold, you don't know how your body's going to react. I didn't feel like I was at my top form as far as how things feel to me, but overall, everything felt easy the entire time. So we end up forcing the pace. I think you would like the clips today. That's Doug on the left and his brother Greg on the right. I brought the blue bike out. We have mud guards on. Paul has mud guards on his, because at my house it was raining. At about 5:30 when I came outside, I always go outside to check the weather before I even do the prologue. And it was rainy and cold. And I expected it to be near 25 C today. That's what they had forecasted. That's almost 80 degrees. No way. It's barely 20 degrees cooler than that. It's like 60 Fahrenheit. You can see the temperature's dropping. It says 11 C. It just got colder as we went out. When we hit the forest, it was cold. So I dressed perfectly. I was dressed perfectly. I told Paul here, let's hurry up, because the light went to yellow so we could get through. We're the last bunch here. So yeah, it was cold enough to where the gimbal was affected. So we didn't sweat it. I mean, it took some what they call Dutch angle shots, but it did its job, and hopefully it will, get situated. I checked the calibration when I got home, so everything's set. Calibration's fine. It's just the temperature gets to the motors. I'm contemplating a way to insulate it, but it's just not practical to try to do that because you put too much stuff on it, the motor won't function too well. So just something we'll have to deal with. No worries. So we did less. We did about 70 something miles as opposed to 112 or whatever we normally do. So we dropped it by probably 80 kilometers. So 120, so we usually do about 160, so about 40 or 50 kilometers, I'm guessing. It's not bad. That's our normal thing is like 160 kilometers.
How are you, man? How you doing?
A lot of the guys in the group, as usual, didn't pace themselves. So by hour 3, they had problems. There's a guy up there named Bob. I'm going to put an arrow on him when it's appropriate. He does it all the time. He doesn't ride on Saturday that often. He usually rides on Sunday. But whenever the ride starts, he will go to the front and start pulling early. And then maybe within 15-20 minutes, he's done. I mean, he gets dropped. And you will see that happening. So don't do that. If you want to ride with the group, your first goal should be make sure you can finish with this group. You can handle the pace for the entire ride. Because just because the ride is slow early doesn't mean they're going to ride that way the whole time. So when you can do all of that, then you can start taking little pulls. But you don't go plant yourself at the front, and then as soon as the ride starts, you get dropped. And the funny thing about it is he comes back because he gets home early, so he goes to their board and posts. And he basically, I'm going to paraphrase because he posted after this ride that, oh, it was great riding with the group for 10 miles, and I enjoyed the other 22 miles that I rode solo. Okay, so he rode a total of 32 whopping miles. When the rest of the group is doing 60 plus, we're doing almost 80. So how can you hope to keep up ever? You're not doing the distance, and then you're going up there killing yourself before the group's even warmed up. So we all make this light here. Mark is kind of surprised. You will hear him ask if everybody made it through. There's a tendency in this group for a lot of people to drift. I think you guys have heard me mention it. I want you to pay attention. They have developed the ability to keep drifting. I don't know how they do it. I call it riding backwards, to where they don't want to be at the front, even though they're there. Watch Mark. He's real good at that. So he's going to drift to the left. And see him going back? Nobody wants to be at the front. I'm just riding at my pace. I don't really care. They do that a lot. And so you will see what we do is when the pace gets really hot, I don't really care who wants to pull. What I don't do is I don't wait for people who start the action. And then once I open up my engine, they want to say, oh, people off the back. No. The only people I'm going to wait for are people who are having problems with the pace simply because the pace is fast for them and they're in the draft and they're struggling. I'll wait for them. The people who want to do what I call close-up moves, where they go to the front for 100 yards, and then when we really start the ride, they're having problems, I don't wait. And you will see that happen. And don't do that. Don't wait for anybody. If they're coming and not contributing to the group, but they want to attack the group, and I've mentioned it before. If they're attacking the group, when the group gets going and they didn't pace themselves and they're starting to have problems, don't wait for them. Let them learn to save the energy they use to attack the group, to stay with the group. So we ended up not waiting because they were stopping too much. After the stop at that store on the way back, they wanted to stop again. We just continued riding. I needed to get home. And so that's the way we ride. That's the way all groups that I've been associated with behave. It's kind of like we're taught. If you're not sure, sit in the draft, conserve your energy so you can last and work hard when the group is going hard so that you can stay with the group. What's the point of launching an attack and then getting dropped? So yeah, if that happens and that's just what you want to do, you want to see what that feels like, great. But then you deserve to ride alone. Why should somebody wait for you? And that's just the logic. That's what I was taught, and that's what I continue to do regardless of which group. So if somebody's in the group and they're having problems and they've been drafting all day, yes, I'll gladly wait for them. But these kind of moves where these guys are up and down off the front, especially when the hill comes, they'll make a move and then later on they're falling off the pace. No, we don't wait for them. And next time we'll try to get more of that on film, but you will see some today. And that's what I want. This is not about the people here, it's about you guys. When you go to ride with a group, especially a group that you don't know, it transfers into anything you do, whether you're going to go into racing or not, because you have to develop good habits, because bad habits are hard to get rid of. It's better for you to have no habit at all than to have bad habits for people to try to undo. So the first thing when you get with a group, get to know the pace. Can you handle it for the entire duration of the ride? Not just when they're warming up. That's your first goal should be, I want to finish with this group to get the kilometers in my legs. Once you're comfortable now that you can handle that pace, then you can try maybe taking short pulls at the front. Do not try to attack a group because you don't know from 1 week to the next who's there. And the pace of a group will vary based on who's there and what they choose to do. So you gotta really be careful. It doesn't mean you can't play, but I just want you to understand that if you spend all your matches first, early, and then somebody puts down the hammer, you just might be either riding alone or in group B or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to learn that it's out there and it can happen. And the reason I'm stressing that is what I'm finding is people are doing the same thing on these rides that we visit every week, and they're unaware that really it's not to their benefit. They're not even aware of that, and that's the thing it's kind of unfortunate. I'll put it that way. It's not a bad thing. It's just that they don't even know that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and that's just the way it is. You know, information is power. That's why you guys are on this channel. You're trying to educate yourself. But I just need you to understand that you're going to see things, and you probably have seen things in this group ride or other rides we've done. And I need you to understand that people that are doing it are not aware that it's not great for getting in shape consistently and also making the right moves. They're not aware. It's not very tactical. Let's put it that way. And that's fine. They're just riding their bike along. They're having fun. So like I've always said, I don't go out there and try to educate anybody that's not seeking. I'm just out here to ride. And I'm doing this in the narration for those of you who are watching the film. That's what this is about. And some of you may wonder, well, why don't you say something to them? Well, that's the reason. I mean, I'm not out there to bother people. If somebody wants to learn something, they need to seek it out. Just like you guys did by finding the channel. These guys know about our channel. One or two of them have found the channel. We even have a supporter in the group. The rest of them haven't. There's a comment where people have made in the past, there's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. That's the same thing, that's the way you want to see it. You don't want to go to group rides and act like you know it all and you start, you know, I call it bothering people, telling people this and telling people that. As long as they're not doing anything unsafe, just ride. It's okay that they don't know tactics. Maybe they're just not into it. So that's the reason I took the time in this narration to spell that out. It's not, you know, it's not cool to just go around in whatever area you're in and just trying to act like you out there to educate everybody because you know everything about it. No, I don't think that's cool. You keep your knowledge to yourself until someone seeks it out and asks you a question or something, and then you can respond to that person. But don't bother the rest of the people, because as long as they're riding safely and doing whatever, not everybody needs to know tactics or how to train with structure. So I only give people information when they seek it. And this whole time that we're back here, I believe, what's his name? Bob is at the front pulling, because I see Scott up there. I see Rick in front of these two guys. That's Doug and Mike Weingrad chatting. The pace is not very high. That's why you see me next to Paul. And you see Doug and Mike Weingrad. And yeah, you see up there in the Chartreuse jersey. That's Bob right there. He's still pulling. So the thing is, this whole time I've been chatting, Bob's up there pulling. And you see that we're spread out, the pace is easy for us. So the point I'm making is, he's using energy that would enable him to have ridden longer with us today, to pull the group at a pace that's not easy for him, but easy for the faster riders in the group. Don't do that. He doesn't need to be at the front at all. He's not even aware of that. That's the point I was making earlier. He does this all the time, and he ends up not riding the whole ride with the group, not even getting halfway. So at some point you think he'd figured it out, but he just seemed to be oblivious to that. And so at this ride, at the end of this ride, he posted that he was happy riding with the group for the 10 miles that he did and his 22 miles by himself. And so that's the reason I don't go up to people and start talking. So he doesn't have any goals regarding I want to be able to keep up with the group. And whether he does or not, he's not accomplishing them. That's my point. Not everybody you come across is aware or they have goals or whatever. So even if you know stuff and you start talking to them about it, they're not going to receive it. They're not ready to receive the information. Bob is not ready. You know, so until he gets a goal in his head that says, I want to be able to do this, and seeks out, how can I do this? Then he will be able to listen to somebody, or at least ask. So in my mind, I'm like, he must be happy with, he must be okay with being dropped all the time while the group is warming up. Because right now, this is our warm up, he's sitting up there pulling. And right now, this group is not going hard, even though the pace is, you know, for him is hard because of the level of conditioning he has. So he's not even aware of the different levels of fitness that's out there. And, you know, so that's the point. You can't go through life giving people information they're not prepared to receive, because it's just like putting water in a cup that's already full, or not, or doesn't have the capacity to receive. The cup has holes in it, and you're putting water in it, it just goes right through. You know, that's the point I'm making. So just be aware of that. People have to be ready for the information. It's kind of like going to school. You can't write sentences if you haven't studied the alphabet in any language, the basics. So we rolled through here. He's still sitting there. He's been there for a while. This is almost 20 minutes into the ride. Why is he pulling this group? I'm aware of it as I'm riding. Now you see him on the right. You see the Chartreuse jersey. He's finally drifting back. He's been pulling for almost 20 minutes. And so in about another 5 to 7 minutes, his ride will be over. And I'm pointing it out so you don't do that, because this group is doing 60 miles or so. And if your goal is to stay with the group, he shouldn't have done that. There's no reason for him to pull. There's enough people here to have been at their front. He shouldn't have spent 20 minutes up there. Even the strong riders don't spend 20 minutes at the front, you know, unless there's nobody else to pull and it's a comfortable pace for them. So he was pulling at a pace that is not comfortable for him. So now he drifts all the way to the back. And here's the thing. The group was going slow for the faster riders. For him, it wasn't slow. So now he spent some of his energy up there. And guess what? The other riders are not going to slow down, so he won't get a chance to recover. He's behind me right now. So don't do that. You know, nobody goes to a race and early in the race starts pulling the whole pack. Unless that's part of the team strategy for whatever team you're with. And that means that you guys have seen them in the pro races where a rider will unravel as they go up a hill because he has exhausted all his energy to get his team leader to that hill, and then he's done. You know, so in a group ride, you're going to get a workout with the group. You have to do the same amount of work everybody else is doing. Nobody else pulled for 20 minutes in this entire ride. So I don't know why he opened the ride with that. And I believe that it's something he does. It's like a show off. It's for his ego. Because a lot of guys in this group, when you pick a pull, they'll say, oh, monster pull, and all that kind of stuff. I think he feeds off of that. Well, yeah, guess what? The monster pull is going to be riding alone. Because we have not really begun to ride. And he's already exhausted himself, and you will see it unravel. And that's one reason I like coming to this group from time to time, to point out these things that we went through that nobody pointed out when we were learning. I learned from books, and I learned from my coach. I was competing, so I was fortunate to have a coach. And you know, a lot of these guys did not compete, they just got into cycling. A lot of riders, you don't have to have a coach, but you're just not aware. And that's why you're on this channel. So just don't do that. Don't pull any longer than other people, especially when you're in a race. If you get in a breakaway and you're good enough to be in a breakaway, don't pull any longer than your breakaway companions. If they don't want to work with you, then attack them and get away by yourself. You're better off. That's for the people who are racing. In the group ride, pull the equal amount of time, unless the pace is tolerable and you don't mind sitting up there long. Don't pull because somebody will say great pull, a monster pull, because that's what a lot of stuff happens here. That's what they do that for. And you know, you're not impressing anybody, because from my perspective as an experienced rider, I think it's kind of dumb to pull so early, so hard, then you get dropped. You're not going to get the fitness benefits that you would get had you hung on with the group. The group will always make you work harder. So you're better off staying with the group if you want to improve. Bob's still sitting back there. He's trying to recover, and then he's not one of the best drafters in this group. The camera doesn't show it, but he's not very close to the people behind there. So we stop for this light over here. And once you burn some matches, it takes a while. You know, we call it paying the tax. It doesn't matter whether we stop for a light or we don't or whatever. It takes a while before you recover, because you've already, now you watch Bob. I see him here, that's why I put the arrow on him. I watch him. The reason why he stands out is he does the same thing on every ride. Those of you who have watched a lot of these rides, there was a ride where we encountered, I believe, water on the road. That's Scott waving people up. I'm not sure why they do that. You're already up there, but he's waving people up. Bob doesn't want to go up there. He's already been up there. Scott has been away. Scott's one of the leaders of the group. He's been gone for a while, more than a month. Nobody knew what happened to him. And then he posted that he'd been snowboarding and doing whatever. This was for this ride. And he said he was coming back. You know, and then somebody said it would get him some pickle juice, because he mentioned something about pickle juice. So he had not been riding much. So Bob's riding in front of me. I'm just sitting back and watching. I can tell by the way he's riding that he's already struggling. And the reason is that, first of all, he needs a fit. So I can tell. It's his body when he's arcing the movements. Second of all, what I was saying, there was a ride we did where it was windy, and about 5 minutes into the wind, Bob was dropped, and he ended up turning back and going back home, just right after the ride had started. That was the day we encountered water on the road on Honia, Egypt. So when you already know of riders that have a history of being dropped by a particular group, and then you watch them doing things like he did, that's why this stands out to me. Because that means this person is not aware of what it's going to take to get them to improve. You're not going to improve by killing yourself for 20 minutes and getting dropped. Because once you get dropped, your speed falls. It takes a lot of dedication to be able to keep your speed up. And if you had that dedication, you wouldn't be getting dropped in the first place, because you would use your head. You'd find out. You'd know. Nobody needs to tell you to sit in or take it easy. Doesn't matter what sport you're in. Whether you're running, you know, ice skating, cross-country skiing, you need to know how to pace yourself. That's just something you learn. So I don't understand why these guys are not getting it. It's like they have no respect for the effort involved. And that's what I talk about, or I say I like this group, because I consider them to be crazy. They don't respect the fact that when you don't pace yourself, you pay the penalty. I learned that early on from soccer and other sports that I did. Even when I played basketball. You don't start a basketball game doing a lot of dunks. You know, you need to save that for later in the game. And the people who do later in the game, they can't keep up. That's why the fourth quarter is different than the first quarter. You see, you guys who follow basketball, other sports, the fourth quarter, there are certain teams that thrive because they have endurance. It's the same thing on a bike ride. A lot of these guys were doing stuff today. At by hour 3, we just rode away from them. And we ended up just riding home because they wanted to stop and do other things. They were tired. We left them on the highway and just went on. I got tired of waiting. So that's the thing. You have to know how to pace. You have to know your capabilities. So Bob is sitting in front of me, and every time at this point when the road goes up, he's getting gapped a little bit, just a little bit. And I can see that. Right there, you watch it. You watch him strain a little as we go up this little bump. That's Ridge Lake Shores as we pass Ridge Lake Shores here. I'm staying a little to the left because I expect him to get dropped. Because I'm watching his body language and I can tell when somebody's at the limit. He's looking for a gear. I wish the camera would show. He's spinning a gear that's too small, so he's getting out of breath. But then when he tries to use a larger gear, it's too big. It's hurting his legs, so he doesn't have the strength. So he's searching for a gear that would enable him to hold his pace, because now he's taxed his resources for those 20 minutes, and right now he's having problems. Watch. You see that? You can see the gap between him and the guy. I'm just sitting on his side. The gap's already there. He's struggling. Now Bob's the same guy that always says, "Oh, it's too windy. Oh, it's not going to be fun. Oh, it's raining. I'm not going to ride." And I'm just waiting for the gap to get large enough before I go around him. I want to see if he's able to get through this, because I know by the overpass he will definitely blow on the overpass. But he ended up falling off the pace a lot earlier than I thought. But I was not surprised. So if he were to save the 20-minute effort, he would have lasted a lot longer than what happened here. You will see shortly. I'll go ahead and motion to Paul, because I know Paul is behind me. When it happens, I'll let Paul know it's time for us to go around him. It's somewhere in a little bit. You can see how Mike is riding away from Bob. Right there, I tell Paul. Right there. See his head drop? That's a tell. His head dropped. That's a tell in cycling. My coach used to tell me, no matter how bad you feel, don't drop your head. In fact, what we used to do is we would drop our head when we're feeling great, so people would think you don't feel so good, and they would make an effort, and then you can come back and counter. And it's not something you think about if you have not prepared yourself for it mentally. But when you get tired, your head drops. You don't even want to hold your head up. And Bob is done. We don't see Bob again. So he had his 29 minutes of fame. He rode 20 minutes hard, and then 9 minutes after he pulled off the front, he was done. So unless he wants to keep riding for 29 minutes, he's going to have to change his strategy. That's the point of all of this. And until he seeks out the information, there's no point in talking to him about it, because he will not receive it, because he's not aware. He's not aware that there is a problem with his strategy. And he's not alone. A lot of riders, I've been seeing that for years. And a lot of other cyclists see it all the time. Even in races. People get excited and kill themselves early, and then when the big heavy hitters drop the hammer on their history. So now we're beginning to ride. And the ironic thing about it is, you see somebody get dropped, and my heart rate says 129. This is like the bottom of my zone 1. This is what I'm talking about, guys and girls. Everybody's at a different fitness level in whatever sport you're in. Whether it's soccer or whatever. That's why they got the Neymars and the Pele and the other people. There are riders and players that will thrive when other people are struggling, because they have prepared themselves, either they have the talent, they have done the work, combination thereof. So here it is, somebody got dropped and I'm in zone 1. So that means Bob needs to do a lot more work before he comes out here. And this is the thing. I know he needs to do a lot more work, but he's not even aware of the amount of work he needs to do before he even attempts to pull anything in this group. He should just be sitting in, because he's getting dropped before we start to ride. Right now I'm hitting zone 2. We're going up to zone 3 now. The pace has picked up. I don't know who's at the front. It might be Doug. And the overpass is coming. And this is what experienced riders talk about. You can't spend your matches before the riding really starts. The riding has just now started. So he needs a coach. You know, he needs somebody to give him a plan, and he needs to be disciplined. It depends on what his goals are. If you have goals to achieve them, you need a plan. Otherwise, you would just flounder. You can't just go to a ride and expect the group to do it for you. You gotta have a plan. There's a lot of debris, and I think Mark ends up hitting one of them, even though it was pointed out. 6 months ago, I used to have problems on this overpass. Now it's nothing. So our training has hit another level. I'm at the top of tempo near sweet spot. We're climbing this thing, and the guy at the front is going full gas. That's why you gotta be aware. You gotta do the work. You gotta know who you're riding with. Because here it is. You know, Doug is a strong rider. He's at the front going full gas, and I'm just now getting out of tempo zone. So that means there's more to come. And at this point in the ride, it is clear to me that even though I was sick all week, by dropping my duration and my intensity during the week, 2 days I rode, and by taking those 2 days off, my body liked it because I'm feeling really good here. And I decide, you know, we're out of town. I consider this the open road now. There's not too many stops. This is when I like to ride. You see the Dutch angle because even though it says 11C, it probably feels like 7 or 8. It was a cool day, overcast, wind, cold, so I was dressed perfectly. I'm glad I covered up. I had on a regular classic cotton cap. I want to do a video about the different kind of cycling caps that are out there, especially with Rafa and Asos and these guys coming up, so people can be aware that there are varieties, different materials they're using now that has changed the game on caps. So I'm just wearing a standard cotton cap, and I have a base layer on. Those of you who saw the prologue, and then my thermal jersey was perfect. I like this thermal jersey Rafa makes because it goes from cold temperatures up to 25°C almost, and you can still wear them. I think that's about the limit I can tolerate. But it has a wide range. Most versatile jerseys are home for this time of year, from cold to mild temperatures. Now Mike is on my right. Mike has not been with us for like 2 or 3 months. He hadn't come for this ride. I think he's been out of town or something. And what ends up happening here is we're riding along. There is a left turn coming up, and he stops too early. He stops too hard. And I feel him slowing down real early and real hard right there. And I'm like, this is early. I don't want to stop. So I moved by the yellow line. You see, I knew there was no traffic and just went around it. There was no reason to stop that early and that hard. There's a car coming on the left we call so people won't cut the corner. And I decided to just go ahead and keep the pace. I ride up to Doug who was pulling. I told him, come on, Doug. Right there, I said, come on, Doug. I don't want to slow down. The pace is hard, and these guys like to go around the corner and then slow down, and I don't want to slow down. That's Mark coming on Doug's wheel. I point to the hole on the right. There's a big hole there. I think in a little bit I point to it, and Mark says hole right. I don't like the yell hole. That makes no sense. Hole right. I just point to it so you go away from where my hand is. Because the people 3 or 4 riders back, they're not going to understand when you yell. The wind distorts everything. So you're better off just point at the obstacles. People ask about signals, you know, group signals and so forth. That those are some of the things. That's why we do the group rides the way we do them. So we just crested that little bump. Now this is a descent. And you will see Doug's brother, Greg, goes on a full-fledged sprint. This is why you must have your wits about you. I know it's not a sustainable pace. Right there. That's Greg's shot going on a full-fledged sprint. We're doing 44 kilometers an hour. Now watch Mark. He tried to go with Greg. He couldn't. Greg takes off. And now he's in no man's land. That's why you got to have a plan. So watch. I know I can do this forever. So I'm not worried about what they're doing. I know Greg can't sustain that pace. I keep riding. Now Mark is in my way, and he's aware of it. After that truck on the left passes, you will see Mark jump to the left out of the way. Because I'm coming. Right there. He moves. The train is coming. He knows it. And he does not want to be on the front. He was trying to get on Greg's wheel. So you can't just follow everybody. You got to know what you're doing. I knew Greg always does stuff like that, and then he'll drift back to the back. He's already turned off the power. But my plan here now is to ride from here to the main highway, which is about probably 10 kilometers from here. I'm not riding just for this stretch. So I don't care what anyone does. I am just going to ride hard and not stop. That's what's in my mind at this moment. This is how we ride. When Paul and I ride, this is what we do. I'm not doing anything that's a fad or I can't maintain. So I don't care what anyone does. You can see we're pulling Greg back. Greg was sprinting. I don't know what he was sprinting for, but that was not my concern. So I moved to the left of Greg because I know he stopped pretty much. And right now I start to look left. I want to look for traffic because I don't want to stop. And it's clear. And Paul sees this, he calls it. I turn, I downshift. Look at my cadence. It's going to go up. Because this is a grade. It may not register, but it's there. And I want to make sure I'm in a gear that I can turn. I don't want my rhythm to change. You can see the effort. My heart rate says 163, whatever. My legs feel like I'm riding 3 out of 5. That's all I care about. I look for traffic, and I see that there's a split. We have like 3 or 4 riders together, and the rest of the guys are scattered back there. There's a gap. So I keep it going. My goal is to keep the pace high. So I let them know. I twirl my finger to say, come on. That means rotating pace line. Take a short pull to the left, let the next person come through. Because I know it's hard. Cyclists going the other way. That's Paul longer pulling. He's come over to the left. I have already moved over. There was nobody on, what's his name? Scott's wheel there. So I got on Scott's wheel. It's just, I don't know what he's doing to Doug. He's supposed to pull off. Now he missed the signal. So now he sits there. And this is hard. And he hasn't been riding with us for a while, so I'm not sure why he's up there. This is another thing I talk about. You guys remember, Scott was the one who we waited for about maybe a little over a month ago. He's been gone for like 6 weeks or more. And then he came and started to pull after we waited for him. These are the kind of things that the mistakes I call them that they make. He has not ridden with us in more than 2 months. He admitted that he's not been on the bike for a while. So why is he pulling here? He should have just pulled through, because what I wanted to do was to keep the pace high and pull through. We're going upper climb into the wind. And I said 1%, whatever. It's at least 1.5, but it's up and down, and it's windy. And this road, it's hard. You can feel it. You can't even see the rest of the guys. There's 4 of us here. They're there, but they're not organized. Everybody's like looking for a wheel. They're always looking for a wheel. Nobody wants to pull. This is what we deal with all the time. I don't worry about it. I just find whatever wheel is available and I get on it. I don't mess around. Some people like to just sit in the whole ride. I don't have time for that. Even if you're not strong, just pull through. Even if you don't take a stroke at the front, but pull through. I don't like to just sit in the back the whole day. And these are the same people that will start making moves. You'll see there'll be sprints down later on. They'll come around. Then they want to take a break. And I'm like, let's go. Let's keep it going. Then they've come a little closer. Doug is sitting there. You can see Doug got right behind Paul because there was a gap behind Paul. So nobody's filling the gaps. And I think Scott sits up here way longer than he should have. approach this corner, this is a four-way stop sign. I'll go ahead and I downshift in like my 5323 or something like that. A moderate gear, 57-inch gear. And when he says clear, I kick it. It's a grade. If you're in the wrong gear, you're gonna struggle. I'm not going full gas. I just accelerate to go through the intersection. And anybody in the wrong gear is going to struggle. You can see there's a gap there. Doug is there. The rest of them are gapped. Doug and Paul. And I just put my head down. I begin to shift up through the gears now. Because it tapers. It says -0. Slightly downhill. But there's a climb where that car is. And so I shift up the harder gears in the back to get us there. I want to keep the pressure on even before we get to the climb. The climb is coming. I'm not riding to this climb softly. I don't care what the climb will do. I'm going to keep the pressure on the whole time. So as I begin the climb, I start to downshift. Look at my cadence. And basically I attack this climb. I'm riding pretty well. I just felt slow the whole ride. And I told Paul about it. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It didn't feel slow to us. But it just felt slow. I didn't feel like I was floating, you know, my usual smoothness. I didn't feel it. For me, anyway. This is zone 4 here. We're working. This is a hard effort. I shift up to finish the climb, as I always do. Climb's over, and I'm riding. As it goes down, I continue to shift. I don't like the coast going downhill. I'm gonna ride it up and down. I want to work it. I thought somebody was gonna come around. Nobody came around, so I figured, okay, let's do this. I'm gonna just ride. Put my head down. This is a shorter one, and I just ride whatever gear feels good. All I focus on is driving the pedals. At this time in the ride, my body has told me everything's fine. I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm firing. I don't feel as smooth as I usually do because of the time off, you know. Just for me, you know, my standards. It just didn't feel smooth, but everything felt easy. And I see that corner coming, so I ride to it. I shift up to keep the pressure on. And as I get into the corner, I throw, with camping you can shift several gears at a time. I drop in 3 gears right here, 3 cogs, and accelerate. Look at my cadence. That's how you take a corner. You need to be in the gear ready to go. And then I move over, I look for traffic, move over, just let people come through. And this is how you know it's hard. When you have like 12, 15 guys and you keep seeing the same wheel, you see, Doug has pulled through, but Paul pulled through. Now I'm on Doug again. Nobody wanted anything to do with the front. So Paul, you know, got pulled through, pulled off, Doug pulled over, Doug had a gap on him, I just filled the gap. I don't look further behind than that. I'm just staying on a wheel. But since we were going less than what we usually do, I decided we're just gonna ramp it up. Since I didn't have any ill effects from my illness on this day, we're just gonna ride it. We roll through this corner here, and you can see that well, the gimbal's acting up because of the temperatures. Feels like 7C, may say 9, but anyway, it's got a good shot of my gearing. As we roll through the corner, I'm on Doug's wheel. At this point, I was hoping that we wouldn't be running into any traffic. There was a left turn coming up. And a lot of times when you go around corners, if people don't pay attention or they're not in the right gear, you work hard. Because if you don't downshift, you struggle. So we we end up going down. There's a left turn coming up. We end up coming across a car that's coming the opposite way, like this car that just went by. And so we have to wait for him. So we could not carry our speed. We kind of had to start over. But it didn't matter. We kicked it back up and just continued to go. And you guys remember, I've been on the front now since we went over the overpass and we turned on that left turn on Capitol Road with Doug on and off. You know, Doug's not taking too many long pulls, so this time he stays here longer this time around because he's gotten a break now. I like to go with people like Doug because they don't shy away from working. I don't like to just go with people that just want to sit on your wheel. I don't have time for that. So this guy's turning left, so we wait for him.
Sorry about that. No, that's good. Played that right.
Yeah, I don't know who it was that said Doug made the right decision, or he had that right or whatever. So you see me kick up the Doug so we can continue and keep the pace high. But what I said on the corner was that if that had been Michael, he would have cut in front of that car. And Michael was right there. I know you heard it. I wanted him to hear it. You're riding your bike, you're not late for anything while you're taking risks. You can see the gaps. So when Doug went around that corner and I kicked up to him, the rest of the people have to work and come back up. A lot of them have to downshift or whatever they do because they're never prepared. And so at this point, we pick up the pace. This road's going up. This is on Mill Route. We go under the trees here. We're going hard here. Right here in this area, there's a separation. The group splits. The road's going up. Doug's pressing. I'm just watching to see when he slows down. I don't want to pace the back off at all. I want to keep the pressure on. Paul's spinning the camera around to kind of get it a little more calibrated because the wind and the cold is bothering the gimbal. And all I'm just going by feel to see it. As soon as Doug's speed drops, I go through because I don't want the pace to lessen. This section of the course is up and down. You see the hills in the distance. Went around that curve, it lessened a little bit. I think this is where I moved to the front. I'm soft pedaling there. So his speed is dropping. I can sense it. I watch his body language to see if he can handle the pace. Right there, I just go ahead. I'm not attacking him. I just roll to the front, keep the pace high. That's just a little acceleration. We call those testers. People who are not aware think you're sprinting. That's not sprinting. When I sprint, it's clear. That's just to get my gear rolling and it keeps the pressure on. And you see Doug just rolled up to me. And when I sat down, I downshifted. Keep the tempo. And right here, I shift up. The pace is hard. This is zone 4. The road is slightly downhill where it says -3. But I shift up. Keep the pressure on. Keep the gears high. But there are more climbs coming. This is the kind of riding that makes you strong. You're not going to get strong by sitting on somebody's wheel all the time. You need to get your nose in the wind. Go this kind of riding and you go to a race or something and you get to sit in, when you do attack, it is just a monstrous attack because your body's already used to attacking from the front. So when you do have the draft, it's different. So you see, I'm just forcing the pace here. I'm not sprinting, I'm just forcing the pace. So yeah, Rick been sucking wheel the whole time, so he goes. I back off and I watch to see who's gonna come around because remember, every time Doug will come around, nobody will be on his wheel. So right here, Paul just takes off because Rick had nothing. I sat down early to see who was gonna come around. So I'm sitting behind Paul Ilonga and the rest of the guys to see. They're all coming around and you can tell, I can tell by watching who's blown the gasket, who hasn't. And I'm looking at that highway. I know they like to stop there. And I'm like, I'm not stopping. We're right behind Paul. I'm not directly behind Paul, I'm behind everybody. I wanted to see who would come around. That's a pulls-up move. The sprint's over. So when you see Rick coming around like that, doesn't mean anything. At that corner, they like to stop. So I go left because I don't want to stop. And I take a wide turn. I look left, I stay to the center line here. Well, there's no line, I stay in the center of the lane. Paul is on the right. Paul Ilonga is on the right, I'm on the left. You heard me, I said, let's go, let's go, let's go. They wanted to take a break, and I'm like, let's go. So Paul Ilonga rides up to me. I wait for him to make sure he's on my wheel before I resume. Once I see him, I settle in, and I'm just riding here. I drop the pace a little bit from what we're doing back in there. This is like zone 2 here. If I wanted us to ride away from them, I would have probably gone to zone 4. They would never have caught us. But I kept it in zone 2 because they have to work to come up to us. So all of this riding that we did, the first hour of the ride, you can see it says 53 minutes. The riding we did in the first hour, about hour 2.5, they were cooked. Because we hit a road called 149 up and down. We didn't really film there, but at that point, you can see they're still standing there waiting. They're waiting for the guys who are gapped. And what I said is, I'm not gonna wait for people who take pulls and get gapped. They shouldn't have pulled. They should have sat in. So they're gonna have to learn trial by fire. So now, I did this just to show you guys. So had we wanted to just ride off, they would never have caught us. So I dropped the effort to zone 2 because I figured they'd have to work harder than that to catch up to us. And so I just proceeded to ride at endurance pace. And my plan is to keep it at endurance pace because if you notice, the same people been pulling. Doug, myself, went through. Scott took a little bit of a pull. He shouldn't have because he got dropped back there. But the thing is that I want to see when they catch up who comes around. See if other people come around other than Doug. So when they finally catch up, Doug comes around and he calls me to join him. I don't. I want to see who else will do some work to get up there. Because there are certain guys that don't like to put their nose out in the wind. They like to come by when we go up a hill and then make a move and stuff like that. And those are the people we press because we're going to teach them with our legs. We're not going to say anything. We're just going to ride. So we're basically in a breakaway here. And so Paul say, oh, they're coming back. They're coming back. I don't know who's pulling, but I believe Scott was at the front, which doesn't make any sense. He got dropped. They waited for him. So why would you take a pull after that? This is the stuff I talk about all the time. They all continue to make the same mistakes because they're not educating themselves. They're not students of the sport like you guys are. So right here, I just hold my pace. I want to see who comes by. I'm riding zone 2. In a little while, Doug comes by. I don't go with Doug because I want to see who's going to come by. Doug invites me. He said, come on, Eldred. But I let him go. I want to see who else comes by. I want people to taste the wind. Because if I had gone by, they would have just slipped behind us. So I let the gap open. You see how big that gap is? And no one has come around. Now, Mike Weingrad. Mike hadn't ridden with us and all. Now, Mike is a worker. He's somebody who rides in the wind. And now you see Mark. He loves following people. You know, Mark's one of those guys that will follow you, and right before you close the gap, he will come around you like he's the one closing the gap. He did that to Victor on this ride. And those are the kind of things that we look at and we just kind of chuckle. So they had to work to get up the duck because they were waiting for somebody else to get up the duck. So what I do here, I lift it into sweet spot. You gotta be able to do that. I'm not looking at heart rate monitor or anything. I just lift it a little bit because the rest of the guys are sitting on our wheel now. They don't want to go with those guys. So I lift it up just a tad, just about, to the next zone. And I did this for this exercise so you guys will see what I talk about all the time. The next time we'll just ride away, which is, there's nothing to show. Because if I had hit zone 4, they would never have caught me. So right here, I'm right above tempo at the bottom of sweet spot, and I just decided to ride at that zone and hold it there. You have to be able to train enough to be able to control your zones to where you can tap into the different zones. That's what we mean by structured training. You can't just ride in one zone all the time, because when it's time to hit those other zones, your body will be in shock. And then you need to make sure your zones are wide enough. What that means is your endurance zone needs to be solid. If you have a strong base, by the time you start hitting these other zones, you're flying. So this road is a grade. We're going into the wind. That's why the speed is low. You may say 30 kilometers, but we're working. So doing about 18 miles an hour, but it's hard. That's why nobody else came around. There's a bunch of guys behind us. And since we didn't wait, they had to chase back with those guys. Those guys sat in. That's Greg shot again, doing the same stuff I talk about all the time. So you have to know who does what on your rides, so you don't waste your energy unnecessarily. I don't pay much attention to Greg. He does not make up much ground. He likes to do that. He likes to do those explosive efforts. So, I do those kind of things on my Tuesday workout. When I really sprint, I'm gone. Those little acceleration I was doing, it changes the pace. So there were a lot of moves when we went through the forest later. We got on 149, people were off the front. And the very people that were off the front started struggling. And that's the point I make. So of course we did not wait for them. You're gonna go off the front and start struggling. We're gonna teach you to save your energy next time by making sure you ride alone. So we rode away from them. Next time we'll put that on film. But it was pretty much just like this. By the time we started to come down 149, we hit Keenan, cut off, and just rode away. So on here, I just wanted to show that we basically continued the pace that we were using, and in a little while after the credits, you will see that we ride up to them. They're not that far ahead because they don't know how to pace themselves. They go way too hard, then they have to slow down and pay the tax. So they're standing right there at the intersection. And in fact, we didn't film it, but after the intersection, I was gonna spin to the store. And I was spinning. I had planned to spin alone. And I was spinning. They were riding so slow that I was passing them while spinning. And I motioned to Paul because I had told Paul, you guys go ahead, I'm gonna spin in. But my spinning pace was comparable to what they were doing because they were all dead after all the pressing that we had been doing. So it was a very enjoyable ride. And what I'm pointing out here is that you have to learn to pace yourself. Don't ride on ego. Ride on your capabilities. Have a plan. Know what you want to do and know what you're able to do before you start dishing out the effort. Otherwise, it can be very, very penalizing. So get your K's in. Keep those doctors fired.